What is Ebola? What is this outbreak? What is actually going on? Why is everybody so worried? We've had Ebola around for many, many years, okay? But it's typically been contained to rural communities. In fact, I was talking to somebody yesterday who said, his grandfather had told him that several decades ago that there had been a disease in the villages of somewhere in Nigeria which seemed to manifest like this. And I told him, I said, that is entirely possible because it has typically been a rural disease. It is typically thought to have originated from man being contaminated by animals, from touching animals. But we have never seen it on this scale. Even that slide, the slideshow right now is slightly outdated, and that's how quickly it's moving. I prepared this overnight. But how quickly it's moving is that on that slideshow it says there's 600 and something deaths. Overnight we now see that there's about 750. That is why people are worried. And why is this? Because we live in an era of globalization. We live in a more industrial era. So people in the villages and in the rural areas are more likely now to come to town. Why are we worried in Lagos? Because somebody got on a plane in Liberia and has come to Nigeria. And now the international community, they didn't take it that seriously when it was happening in Sierra Leone and Liberia. But the minute it arrived in Lagos, Africa's most populous city, and Nigeria, Africa's most pretty much commercial, one of the commercial nerve centers of Africa, it became a global, almost a global emergency. In the UK, the COBRA meeting was held by the UK government just a couple of days ago, and in the US as well, senators meeting, the House of Representatives are meeting, because they're saying, what are we going to do about this? It is that all of those actions are not to cause panic. They're showing you that people are being prepared, and that is what we're doing here today. We are getting ourselves prepared and educated. Information is power, and if we're educated, it is not that scary. It is a disease that is highly infectious, it's not contagious. What do I mean by that? A cold, the flu is really contagious. You sneeze, two people sneeze in this room, enclosed, air conditioning, and everybody has a cold, potentially, or maybe 80%. This is infectious, it's not that contagious. What do I mean by infectious? It means that a little amount of it will affect you, but it doesn't spread that quickly. And one of the reasons, thankfully, is because it kills so quickly. So because the person who's incubating it is dead within about 2 weeks, almost always, it doesn't spread, and because they're so ill, it's not like, it's not an ambulant disease, so you don't have it and you're walking around. Invariably, it knocks you out so much. That's why it's only people within that immediate vicinity who tend to get sick, and also the healthcare workers and the few people they've come into contact with. It's a virus. It's one of the deadliest viruses known to man. Why? Because it is the mortality rate is so high. Because you're more likely to die from it than to survive. And those are some of the things that we'll talk about today. Why is the mortality rate so high? Because there is no cure. We don't know what to do with it. There's no medicine. What does it do? What are the symptoms? Fever, weakness, muscle pain, headache, sore throat. What does that sound like? Malaria. That's why it's worrying. Those are the symptoms. And then it's followed again by vomiting, diarrhea, etc., etc. And that's the one that's frightening everybody, because they say it ends up with lots of bleeding. So that's end stage. By the time somebody is like that, we hope we're not seeing anybody in that state. How do we catch it? What is the exposure? From direct contact. That's important. See, direct contact with infected blood, feces, sweat. Sexual contact with infected person, that's also very important, because they're saying that those who have survived it are still infectious for about 7 to 8 weeks afterwards when they have intimate contact with somebody. Maybe not from their hands or what have you, but from intimate body contact. Unprotected handling of contaminated corpses, so they're teaching now, don't wash bodies. Okay, so some people will show symptoms after 2 days, and some people won't show any symptoms until 3 weeks. What is diagnosis and treatment? Nothing. Really, nothing. I would advise you from a public health preventative perspective make sure you're hydrated all the time. Make sure you're drinking water. How do we prevent transmission? I have this on a list. Don't touch sick people who show symptoms of Ebola. Don't touch people unnecessarily. Liberia have just shut down their borders. They've shut down the country. They've closed all schools. They've sent all non-essential personnel home. And they've told people to stop shaking hands. Okay? Literally, stop unnecessary contact. So if you're walking along, you're getting on a bus or in a taxi or something, and hey, you know, high five's unnecessary. You know, hi. Nice to see you. You know, you want to give somebody a kiss, hey, kiss. You know, avoid unnecessary contact. Don't touch bodies. Wash your hands with soap and water regularly. This is an important one. Everybody's talking about sanitizer at the moment, and sanitizer is important, but there's no substitute for soap and water. Sanitizer is for when you don't have soap and water. So sanitizer does not replace soap and water. Make sure you wash your hands regularly. Avoid bushmeat and suya. I know. That's a rough one. Fumigate if you have pets. Just general things. Use protective gear if you must care or go near someone you suspect has Ebola. I would say to you, you're not healthcare workers, do not go near somebody you suspect has Ebola. Full stop. I would also add to that, avoid hospital visits. Right now, if you're going to some young girl visit somebody in the hospital, no. Education, awareness, those of you who are on Twitter, Facebook, whatever media you have, put it out there. Put it out there. Let people know, tell them to look after themselves. It's not panic. Education is power. Okay? How do we deal with it on a longer, ongoing basis? Train your families. Train those of you who've had the benefit of this sort of thing, who've gotten these materials. Train your children. Tell them what to do so they can tell their friends. Because that's what we have to tell people about it. So, and I think that's what we can do. You know, if fear causes panic, and fear causes a lot of people to shut down. You know, I think within government, people are afraid. Within private sector, people are afraid. Yeah, that the potential consequences of us not doing this are great. But if we do this and we prevent the spread, then we would have won. Lagos does not need Ebola.